What's up, y'all? BK back here with another paddle review. In this video, we're going to be reviewing a paddle that is very special in my eyes. Something that is basically built by a pro pickleball player for pro pickleball players, but under $150 price tag. So this paddle is something that I feel a lot of good players are going to gravitate towards, especially at that price range. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and review the Robust Pickleball Red. Let's do it. Now, before we start, just a disclosure, I have not been paid to put out this review and no review is guaranteed. I do get these paddles for free to test them out, but I only put out a review if I really like the paddle or I see something unique in the paddle. So no review is guaranteed, but I do have a discount code with Robust Pickleball. You can use the code BK10 at robustpickleball.com and get this paddle for $130 on their website. All commission earned from this paddle and using that discount code just goes towards help supporting the channel. So if you do like the review and end up wanting to buy a Robust Pickleball Red, make sure to use the code BK10 at robustpickleball.com. Now, before we go into the paddle, just a little bit of background on Robust Pickleball and the brand. A lot of you might be familiar with Cliff Pickleball. He's a big YouTuber, puts out a lot of instructionals, used to do a lot of paddle reviews. And last year he came out with a very control friendly paddle that was really popular, especially in the Central Florida area, where a lot of people love that paddle called the Vorus. That Vorus paddle was really good, soft game. For 2022 and 2023 style of pickleball, it was a really good paddle. But now that the game's moving more faster and more dynamic, it is essential to have a paddle with more spin and power compared to the Vorus. So Cliff has now branched out and he created the company Robust Pickleball, and this is the first paddle under the Robust Pickleball umbrella. Very excited to announce this. Cliff is a good friend of mine. However, that does not mean I'm going to be biased in this review. All my reviews are honest. You can go check out any of my other reviews. I do have affiliate links with a lot of these brands, but again, I'm gonna speak my mind, and Cliff can come yell at me later if he wants to based on my review. Now, with that being said, Cliff is a 5.5 plus player. He's a great player, really understands the game. So this paddle really had a ton of testing and R&D that went into this paddle to create this final product of what we see right now. And I feel like he's really taken the best parts of some of the top paddles in the game and tried to combine them all into one package for under $150. So for that effort, kudos to that. This paddle really does have a very high performance level in a lot of different categories, as we're going to dive into. But just for that, definitely love the work that Cliff has done with this first paddle from Robust Pickleball. Now, diving into the Red, there are a couple things that really stand out with this paddle. If you are looking for the specifications, I'll leave them up on the screen right now. But just to give you a quick rundown, it has a total length of 16.5 inches and you have that 7.5 width, so pretty standard to most elongated shapes that we see on the market today. The handle is a little bit shorter than that 5.5, at least that's how it felt in my hand. But for my game, I personally use the Yola 3S Magnus, which does have that shorter handle on the Yola market. So I do like those shorter handled paddles where I'm able to really use that one hand to the best of its ability. But this paddle does have more than enough room for you to put two hands on it. So it is definitely a little bit longer than the Magnus, but I wouldn't say it's a true 5.5 inch handle. So if you are somebody that wants a really long handle, then this version of the Red is probably not for you. Right now, the 16mm version is available for sale, and Cliff is working on the 14mm as we speak. He's just waiting on final approval from USAPA to make sure that the 14mm paddle is approved and ready to go. But the 16mm version is what I got to test out, and that's the paddle that we're going to be doing the review on today. Now, number one, as soon as you pick up this paddle, what you will feel with this paddle is the grit. The spin on this paddle is absolutely crazy. I feel like what they've done is, if you have had the chance to get your hands on the Proton Flamingo, the new Project Flamingo from Proton, the grit on that paddle is absolutely ridiculous. We're seeing a lot of pro players that use the Proton paddle do really well in the PPA. circuit right now, and that primarily, one of the big reasons is because of that grit on the Project Flamingo. It is something that really allows you to shape the ball. So Cliff is basically taking the grit from that paddle and put it into this red. So immediately as soon as you pick up the paddle, you'll feel that heavy grit on the paddle. Again, it's not enough where you can stick it on the shirt like the video that went viral, but it is definitely a lot of grit. I feel like he's really maximized the standards that you can get to with the USAPA rules, and this is something that you will absolutely enjoy with this paddle. I had a really fun time hitting big topspin drops, putting a lot of pace on them, but because I was able to get the ball to spin that much, it just dips down right over the net and kicks out beautifully. I also love to slice the ball. If you've seen my games, you know I love my slice. It's my favorite shot in pickleball, and this paddle just absolutely enhanced the spin rates on my slice. It was crazy getting some of these rolls on the slice where the ball would basically bounce and just dip under someone's paddle because of how much spin was on the ball. So really enjoyed the spin aspect of this game. If you're looking for a very high spin rate paddle, this should be one of the top things on your list. Now, diving into the power and pop of this paddle, what Cliff has done with the Robust Pickleball Red is similar to the Yola 3S and the Yola mods. There is that foam injection similar to that propulsion core that we see in Yola, where there's that extra layer of foam within the edge wall that allows the paddle to have that increased flex on contact. So what that really does is, rather than having a linear power curve, this paddle does have an exponential power curve, but it also comes with a break-in period. These foam injected paddles do have a break-in period where you really need to give the paddle a couple weeks of hitting shots where that core and that foam starts to settle, where now you get that enhanced pop that you're looking for from these paddles. Now, as I mentioned, this paddle isn't as powerful or poppy as the Yola 3S. Once you break it in though, I would classify it closer to that Paddle Tech standard of power. So definitely a power paddle, not a control paddle. It is more on that power paddle style of game. You will love playing your drives and your hard hitting volleys and big counters, whereas the touch game will take a while to get used to if you are used to more of a stiffer paddle feel like the Gen 2. But this paddle does have a more plush feeling on the ball, higher dwell time that also results in that extra spin that we see with this paddle. So if you are someone that likes playing with a Paddle Tech style of paddle but want a bigger sweet spot because of the foam injection and a little bit higher spin because of that Proton Project Flamingo like spin, this is that paddle. It really has taken the best qualities of a lot of these paddles, the Yola 3S, the Paddle Tech TKOC, the Project Flamingo from Proton, and it's combined it all into one package. So I absolutely love playing with this paddle. It is definitely overall a fantastic paddle for anyone looking for an all-around paddle that's going to allow you to play a more power style of game while allowing you very high spin rates to control that ball. Now, diving into the touch and feel of this paddle, because of that foam infusion in the core, this paddle will feel a lot more plush than some of those stiffer feeling paddles that you're used to in the Gen 2 series of paddles. If you are someone that likes the feeling of a stiffer paddle that allows you to really feel the ball coming off the paddle face, this isn't the one for you. But if you are someone like me that likes really high dwell times, this paddle has a very plush feeling. You can really grab onto the ball and push that ball through with a lot of control, but you have to have that slower swing mechanic to really control the ball. If you have a really fast motion on your drop or your counter, you might want to go with a softer paddle that's not just going to pop the ball off on faster swings. So for players that have a very fast motion on their drops or fast motion on their dinks, you might want to go with more of a Gen 2 style of paddle that's going to allow you that stiffness where the ball comes off that paddle face quicker without sitting on it and then propelling it forward like this paddle does. So that is something that you want to look for with this paddle. I personally have very slow mechanics on my drops and my dinks. It took me little to no time to get used to those drops and dinks. Once I added the weight to this paddle, it really felt fantastic. This paddle does come in at 7.8 ounces, so stock weight, you're going to have a hard time controlling the ball and generating power because of how light the paddle is. But I've added weights basically to the side of the paddle, along the bottom side of the face, and then I have my edge guard and an overgrip, bringing the weight up to 8.4 ounces. And at this weight, especially with that extra lead tape down on the sides, I was really able to enhance that sweet spot and give it a lot more controlled feeling while I was hitting my drops and my dings. The paddle wasn't coming through my hands quicker than I'm used to. So once I did weight it up, I really enjoyed playing with this paddle. Now, the number one thing that I want to talk about with this paddle is the value for money. Really what we're seeing is features from the Paddle Tech, the Yola 3S series, the Project Flamingo from Proton, all packaged into one paddle for under $150. So that's really what makes this paddle stand out. Because Robust Pickleball is a smaller brand without much overhead and a ton of inventory for manufacturing, Cliff is really able to price this paddle much lower than a lot of the competitors in the space. So that's really what sets this paddle apart. Now you can get this paddle for $145, but you can use the code BK10 at robustpickleball.com and get your hands on this paddle for just $130. At that price range, it is going to be very hard to find a paddle that's going to beat the performance of the Robust Pickleball Red, and that is really what makes this paddle stand out. So if you're looking for a premium pro quality paddle for $130, this is the choice for you. Fantastic paddle. I would definitely recommend it to a lot of players, especially players that play more of a power style of game that love high spin rates off their paddles. Now, if you enjoyed this review, make sure to subscribe below to BK Pickleball. Over 90% of viewers off this channel are not subscribed, so please make sure to subscribe below. It really does help us support the channel a lot. It really helps us continue putting out great content for you, so make sure to subscribe below. Also, comment below what other paddles you'd like to see me review. Like this video, share it with your friends, and until next time, I'll see you later.